What would you do if a seemingly ordinary night out turned into a terrifying mystery? In the heart of Oakland, Kimberly Robertson's life took a tragic turn, leaving behind a trail of unanswered questions and shattered lives. As we delve into her story, we explore the chilling details of a crime that shocked an entire community. It was a chilly morning on April 5, 2014, when the lifeless body of 23-year-old Kimberly Robertson was discovered near Lake Merritt in Oakland, California. The early morning mist hung in the air, and the peaceful surroundings of the Francis Marion Smith Recreation Center were shattered by the grisly sight. Kimberly had been brutally beaten to death, her face and body bearing the unmistakable signs of a violent attack. Her family, her young daughter, and the city of Oakland would soon be rocked by the details that unfolded, revealing a tragic story of deception, betrayal, and murder. But as the sun rose over the city that day, no one could have imagined the events that led to Kimberly's untimely death. The case would draw attention not just because of the crime itself, but due to the man at the center of it all, Prince Frank Tsetse, a married father of 3. Kimberly Robertson, a bright young woman in her early 20s, was in the prime of her life. She had moved to Oakland from Texas only 6 months earlier, looking for a fresh start. A mother to a 4-year-old daughter, Kimberly was pursuing a criminal justice program at Heald College in San Francisco. She had hopes and dreams, plans for her future, and a life full of promise ahead of her. But one fateful night would put an abrupt end to all that. The evening began innocently enough. Kimberly was out drinking with her boyfriend at a local bar, the Lakeside Lounge, located just a short distance from the bus stop where her life would intersect with the man accused of taking it. Witnesses later testified that Kimberly and her boyfriend had gotten into an argument, causing her to storm off and find her way to the bus stop alone. That's where Prince Tsetse entered the picture. Tsetse, a 41-year-old man originally from Ghana, had lived in Oakland since 2007. On the surface, he appeared to be an ordinary man. He was married, had 3 children, and worked to support his family. But as the details of that night unraveled, it became clear that Tsetse's actions were far from innocent. According to Tsetse's testimony, he was driving his red Toyota 4Runner through the streets of Oakland in the early hours of April 5th, looking for some company after a disagreement with his wife. He later claimed that his wife had turned him away, refusing to sleep with him after a family concert at the University of California, Berkeley. Upset and frustrated, Tsetse said he drove around the city, eventually encountering Kimberly at a bus stop near East 18th Street and Park Boulevard. In Tsetse's version of events, Kimberly waved him down, and they struck up a conversation. She allegedly told him she was working and offered to have sex with him for $250. After negotiating the price down to $200, Tsetse claimed they drove to a nearby residential area and had sex in the back seat of his SUV. According to him, after their encounter, he dropped her off near Park Boulevard and 3rd Avenue around 3 a.m., noticing some blood on her. But when questioned about the blood, Kimberly reportedly told him she had gotten into a fight with a man earlier that night. That, Tsetse insisted, was the last time he saw her. Hours later, at 6:40 a.m., Kimberly Robertson's body was found beaten to death on the 1900 block of 3rd Avenue, just a few feet from where Tsetse claimed to have dropped her off. Her injuries were severe. Her face was unrecognizable, and her body bore signs of a violent struggle. Kimberly's hands and forearms were bruised, indicating she had tried to defend herself from her attacker. The discovery sent shockwaves through the community. Kimberly was not just a random victim. She was a mother, a student, and a daughter. Her sister Marquita Martin would later express the immense grief her family felt, saying, "I can never replace my sister. My life will never be the same." From the very start, police zeroed in on Tsetse. Surveillance footage placed his red Toyota 4Runner circling the area where Kimberly was picked up, and DNA evidence confirmed that Tsetse had indeed had sexual contact with her. But Tsetse vehemently denied having anything to do with her murder. He claimed that after their consensual encounter, he had left Kimberly alive and unharmed. As the investigation progressed, however, more damning evidence emerged. Kimberly's cell phone and jewelry were missing, and prosecutors suggested that they had been stolen by her killer. Prosecutor Stacey Pettigrew pointed to Setze's erratic behavior and his initial lies to police as further proof of his guilt. Setze admitted that he had lied in his first statement, telling investigators that he had not had sex with Kimberly in a desperate attempt to hide his infidelity from his wife. "I was just trying to save my marriage," he later confessed in court. Despite Setze's insistence that he was innocent, the weight of the circumstantial evidence against him was heavy. The fact that his DNA was found on Kimberly's body, that he was the last person to see her alive, and that he had lied to police about their encounter painted a troubling picture. The trial began with high emotions on both sides. Setze's defense lawyer, Ernie Castillo, argued that while Setze had indeed had sex with Kimberly, he could not have been the one to kill her. Castillo pointed to the timeline of events, suggesting that another man, whose DNA was also found on Kimberly's body, could have been responsible for her death. He also highlighted the fact that Kimberly was still alive when Setze dropped her off, claiming there was no direct evidence linking his client to the murder. But the prosecution told a different story. Pettigrew acknowledged that her case was built on circumstantial evidence, but maintained that it was strong enough to convict. She pointed out that Setze had the motive. His wife had told him earlier that night she didn't want to see him anymore, and that he had the opportunity. Surveillance footage, DNA evidence, and the location of Kimberly's body all pointed to Setze as the killer. It took the jury less than 2 hours to convict Prince Frank Setze of first-degree murder, with the special circumstance of committing the murder during a rape. The evidence, while circumstantial, was enough to sway the jury. They believed that Setze had not only lied to cover up his infidelity, but had also raped and killed Kimberly Robertson in cold blood. During his sentencing, Alameda County Superior Court Judge C. Don Clay expressed disappointment that Setze showed no remorse. "I had hoped that you would admit to what you did and apologize," Clay said. "But I don't think you have that kind of heart." Setze was sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole, leaving behind a devastated family and a community forever changed by the loss of a young woman with her entire life ahead of her. What are your thoughts on this case? Let us know in the comments, and don't forget to subscribe for more true crime stories that shed light on the voices behind the headlines. Stay safe and take care.